first story comes in the form of Activision Blizzard. Now, there's been another bit of a union vote count in here. Now, Activision Blizzard has been under fire for a long time over the past couple of years for a few different accusations and things like that. But it's clear the company's executives have felt threatened, and this is what the union has said. So last month, Raven Software, Blizzard's Albany-based band of Diablo testers, formally won the right to form a union following a months-long process. Now, the ballots were subsequently sent out, with the result due to be announced on the 18th of October. So in a nutshell, Activision Blizzard execs are arguing, as they have done for a while, that small teams within the game studio should not be qualifying as a bargaining unit. Now, Matt, what do you think to all of these about the union vote going on within Activision at the moment?
Hi, I'm here, by the way. Thanks for introducing me. This has been going on for a long time. This has been going on for like 3 years now. Let's go back several years to when Activision Blizzard started to become reports that there was a lot of sexual harassment, there was a lot of misogyny, there were a huge amount of issues going on internally at the company, right? So they kind of got everyone together, and there's a lot of protests that happened. This is during COVID, so it was a lot of unease about what was going on, but a bunch of protests. Eventually people were forced out of the company. There were promises of change and all this kind of thing. And then that snowballed into the employees sort of starting to wanting to protest their own workers' rights, wanting to protect the rights of trans workers and homosexual workers, and basically everyone at the company. And it felt like a very us versus them thing.
Yeah.
Now, Raven have taken that on and have decided, right, we're going to do something about this. And they said, right, we're going to go and unionize.
Yeah.
And then, but because corporations are corporations and they're always the worst, they pushed back heavily against this. So they've hired anti-union busting lawyers. They've been putting out propaganda to the staff members. They've been trying to put them off. There were things like they were going to give bonuses to everyone except for the people in the union. It's that kind of thing, which is technically not illegal, but it's kind of rubbish. And yet these people have stood their ground and said, no, we're still going to do this.
Well, it's not great considering everything that has gone on in Activision Blizzard, and I think it needs to kind of come away from that, but it seems to be always in the news and in the firing line at the moment, so I think something needs to be done to rectify something, because otherwise it just seems like an ongoing circle.
Well, the fact of the matter is that even now, because it's all been agreed, like the union has been voted to go through, Activision has said, okay, fine, we'll deal with them, we'll do this, and yet they're still trying to delay and push back. What they're trying to do really is just make it as difficult as possible to work, to the point where they're hoping they just get tired and don't bother.
Absolutely.
So what's happening at Amazon, for example. So I think it's great courage from what these people.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking out.
It's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and you're putting yourself on the line, really, like because what you're doing essentially is saying to your boss, we're going to group together and get more out of you because we're not happy. And like you're not allowed legally to be fired for doing this, but there's certainly a number of things they can do to make your life miserable.
Absolutely.
But the fact they've stuck with it and they've kept going, it's not. This isn't just about this. Then doesn't mean it's just about Activision and Raven. This is about the gaming industry as a whole.
Yeah, there's an issue going down.
Because you heard of crunch, right? The whole idea that game developers work 100 hours a week, 7 days a week. They sleep under their desks. All to get a game out.
Yeah.
It's and so that your game can, and it's an appalling. They call it the crunch. It's like the last 6 months of build up. It's appalling. It means you lose your family time. It means your mental health is ruined. All this kind of thing. But it's just an industry culture.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are fed up with it now and want to move away, which is why this unionization could be the first of hopefully a lot more opportunities for people to move away from that and have a more healthy lifestyle.
Definitely, but I mean, do you think that this actually impacts people wanting to work in gaming? Do you think people might think, oh, there's been a lot of stories and throughout different companies and different things. Do you think it might put people off wanting to work in gaming?
I think it probably has.
Yeah.
I imagine there are people who've heard horror stories and decided no. A lot of media is the same, like we're in TV and there's been horror stories about people working in TV. I've experienced it myself, coming through the ranks.
Industries, yeah.
I'm sure you've probably experienced similar as well. We all have. But yeah, I certainly think I think a lot of these companies take advantage of the fact that it's games.
Yes.
And people want to work in games and they're willing to do anything to work in games. And if they complain about the hours, they just be like, well, we'll just hire someone else and then you don't have your dream job anymore, which is incredibly unfair. But at the same time, if you're in that position, you are terrified and so you'll do what you're told. But we are seeing, and this has come out as like the COVID pandemic, a lot more people are standing up and saying, do you know what? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Life isn't worth it. Like, I want to have a life. I want to see my friends and have a family and go and see the world. And your job shouldn't be all of you.
No,
and
absolutely.
we are seeing more and more of that. And this is just one example of it.
I mean, it is obviously quite public and it's in the news and people can read about it. Do you think actually for the community that buy the games and people that are fans of these games, do you think it might put people off actually wanting to buy the game and actually get involved if they know what's going on around it?
I think you might have a story that proves that's not the case.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lack of awareness to some extent that that people have about how hard games are to make and how people get upset and throw tantrums because they don't get exactly what they want, or games are broken when they come out. You know, like Cyberpunk, for example, was not ready. That should have been another year.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that's partly on them for not having planned properly. That's partly on the pandemic for restricting what they could do. But games are extremely hard to make, and people spend a huge amount of time there doing it. And I think education on why it's so difficult could be really beneficial to everybody, to understand exactly why games struggle, why there's problems with them, why they're delayed all the time, that kind of thing. Although I think we are seeing with delays, for example, that there are more people who are willing to accept delays to have a game that's well made and good, happy to wait another 6 months. But you're still always going to get the contingent who complain.
Oh, absolutely. But I think you are right. I think we'd all rather wait, because the frustration that comes out of a game that's glitching and there's bugs and there's all this other stuff, it just absolutely grinds your gears. And I've waited for this for so long and it's just not coming.
The thing is, if you were to say, okay, I'm really upset this has come out and it's broken and buggy, or you have the option to wait 6 months, play it and then come out and it works and it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally wait. But
I would too.
And also, if you're a creator, you want to be proud of what you put out.
Absolutely.
And if you can't be proud of what you've put out because you're being, you're understaffed and you're overworked, and there's no opportunity to it's just make the stuff and go, push, go. You're gonna go home on a Friday afternoon and think, why am I doing this? What have I created this for?
Yeah.
And then you've got, imagine then you work for Activision and then you've got all this other stuff about all this, misogyny and harassment and abuse and staff. God, that must be so degrading.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not nice when it piles up. But it was actually interesting that you said about the sort of creative control, because I think there's a lot of people that work in gaming and they get pushed in different directions. Creatively, that's not what they want to do. No. So, I mean, it's kind of thinking of ways how to work around that. And do you leave? Do you stay?
Yeah, I think ultimately what we're seeing now as a result is a lot more developers going indie, going independent.
Yes,
we're seeing so many. There is a lot of when you read about, this studio is former developers from Ubisoft or Activision or Sega or whatever, and it's interesting to see how they're all going independent to have that creative control, even though they've probably got a cushy pay packet and they've probably got benefits and healthcare and whatever else, but they would rather go off and make a cute 2D platformer, about a small child in a lonely world or whatever, because that's what they all are for some reason. That is dear to them, and okay, sure, they might not make a huge amount of money out of it, maybe just enough to get by.
Yeah.
But they're probably a lot happier.
Absolutely.